Welcome to the Speaker Focus Show. Join your hosts, Kevin T. Robertson, CEO of SpeakerFocus.com, and Holly Hayes, a renowned mindset and energy expert from itshollyhayes.com, as we explore all things public speaking, communication, confidence, and personal growth. If you're ready to elevate your career and make a lasting impact, this is the podcast for you. Whether you're a speaker, coach, consultant, or expert in your field, we've got you covered. Get ready to unlock your full potential on this transformative journey with KTR and HH. All right. Hello, everyone. We are back again. I'm here with the wonderful KTR. How you doing?
Holly, I'm doing super fantastic. I feel absolutely amazing today.
Me too, actually. And maybe we will discover that what we've been doing separately will lead us into today's topic. So, how to unwind and get away from the daily grind. I love this topic, and I talk about it a lot because my opinion, and I'm going to be a little bit controversial here from the get-go, is that if you are still stuck in that hustle and grind, I think you're in the old paradigm. You're really stuck in a place that for many people doesn't exist anymore. And I think some of the things that we'll talk about today will help people to perhaps realize and maybe awaken from that state that it doesn't need to be as hustle and grind anymore. What do you think?
Absolutely. I want to directly address that because I love what you said. It needs to be disruptive because when you start getting up there in age and you start holding on to a lot of old belief systems that were taught to you, and technology is undefeated. So as we are getting more technologically advanced, the old way of doing things, that archaic mindset of it had to be one way, or you can do sales one way, you can grow a business. Wouldn't you agree, Holly? We have so many options because the internet makes us global. And if we sit back and think about unwinding or a stress management strategy or unplugging from technology and just getting in touch with ourselves, a lot of us, and this is the reason why I'm so happy that you were willing to talk about this topic with me, because I'm going through this grind right now, right? And I'm learning how to manage things on a whole nother level. And it's not been easy for me. I've had to call you several times to get my energy back in alignment because I felt like I was out of the vortex, which is impossible to be in it 24 hours. And, my thing is this. I believe that sometimes we forget, Holly, that we are supposed to unwind. I feel like as entrepreneurs, we say team no sleep. We got to grind this shit out 24 hours a day. Come on, we got to go get this money. And it turns us into fucking monsters, right? Yep. And then we forget about, well, what about the softer side? What about I just want to take a walk with my wife on the beach and hold hands.
Yes.
What about like I did right before this call? I asked you, I said, Holly, can we push this back a little bit? Thank God you said, hey, pushing it back actually works better for me. You know what I was doing? I took a walk for an hour along the shoreline. Absolutely beautiful outside. I needed to get in that space before this call to remind me that I'm entitled. I deserve to unwind and pull the plug, and I deserve peace in my life instead of being on the grind all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I just have a quote that popped into my head. When you don't have time to take a break is when you need the break the most. And that's what people forget when they're saying, I don't have time to take a break. I don't have time to get out for my beach walk in the middle of my day or at the end of my day, because then I've got to switch to my side hustle or whatever it might be. That's when you need to take the break the most, because your energy doesn't regenerate that way. You need to step away. Guilty of it, and we'll give many examples because I know we're honest about this. But what you just said about unplugging, get away from technology, So I swapped over to a new, I swapped from a PC to a Mac recently. So of course I'm running between these devices because I'm like, oh, that spreadsheet saved over there on Word, and then this is on Google Docs. So I'm like, I'm sure there's someone who can help me with this that maybe we'll see this video. But I'm like running between those two things. Then I've got my phone. Then I've got my AirPods. And literally the other night, I was just like laying in bed, finishing off some work. And I look around me and I wonder why I'm feeling exhausted and drained and depleted. I'm surrounded by technology constantly. And that's not healthy for us. EMF is not good for us. We need to take breaks. We need to leave our devices at home and get some fresh air, get amongst the trees, put your feet in the sand. Like,
Yep.
I was just thinking, oh my God, what am I doing? Like, I'm sleeping with my devices.
You are. Yeah.
Four of them. Oh,
The
so
devices are all over the place. Yeah.
exactly. So it's really important that we do this. And by doing that, we are going to regenerate our energy. And sometimes it's just a matter of unplugging for 20 minutes. Just like they say, get out and just do 20 minutes of exercise a day. Unplug for 20, get away from devices for 20 minutes a day.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You know, Holly, let me ask you this. Somebody that's and you really helped me with this in the last conversation, kind of off the cuff that I had. Thank God I have you in my network. I have you in my friend zone, my business associate zone, where I can talk to you about a multitude of things, from everything from far left all the way to far right, and
Yes.
get the coverage in between. So let me ask you this. On it was just several days ago, literally, when I reached out to you and I said, hey, my energy feels kind of funky. I just need some help. And then obviously you listened to me first.
Mhm.
And then you told me what you asked me a series of questions. I want
Mhm.
to know why you asked me the series of questions, because I feel like, and I'm asking for a reason, because perhaps somebody else out there is like on multiple side hustles. They got a regular 9 to 5 gig, or maybe they're an entrepreneur, and they're in a trap and they just don't know how to get out. Even a simple thing like, hey, just stop doing everything you're doing, leave your phone inside and just go take a walk for 20 minutes. That sounds easy, but why isn't it as easy for people that are very driven like me? Why do you think that is?
That's a great question. And again, I'm on a quote bender today. A quote comes to mind by Carl Jung. Until we bring the unconscious conscious, it will rule our lives and we will call it fate.
Mm,
So I asked you those questions because I could sense there's something going on unconsciously that is creating this pattern. And in order to break it, we need to bring it conscious. Once we do that, and we did that on our conversation, and you were like, oh, this is what it is. And I'm realizing this, and perhaps I haven't dealt with this or I haven't released this. And we need to do that because, we are unconscious when we're on these devices. And that's how social media is designed, to keep us unconscious so that we keep scrolling and we stay on the apps, right? Because they're
yeah.
making money if we stay online longer, whatever company it might be. So it's unconscious. People aren't realizing, when you get those notifications on your phone, like, oh, your screen time is up. You've been on your screen like 8.5 hours today.
I
I'm just like, oh my God, that's
didn't
really,
realize I was on it that long.
yeah, like those reminders, because that makes it conscious. And then I'm like, oh, I got to get that down to 5 hours from 8,
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason why I ask you that is because I realize you work with top performers just like I do. And a
Mm,
lot of times I believe that, like, we lost our way. Like, I could have them focus on the one I could have them focus on the one service of, building a speaker business, or I could be offering some consulting advice, or I could be talking to a meeting planner about speaking. But I believe that a lot of times when you are a top performer, like, you're under a lot of stress. It's not the stress that the environment or people or either the business even put on you. It's what we put on ourselves.
yep.
Sometimes we're our worst nightmare and our worst enemy. So why do you think so many people that are goal oriented, so many people that are successful, that that they are, it's lonely. Holly, on the day I called you, I felt very, very lonely. Like, so when in your experience working with your top performing clients,
Mm.
like, what do you notice about all of them that they have in common to not have the ability to unwind as easy, and they're so absorbed in the grind?
Mm. Really good question. And this actually came up during the week, not just for people in my network, but also myself. And the thing is, when when it's unconscious, right? It stems from childhood. If something was stressful in childhood, we would obviously go to our caregiver for some sort of soothing, whether that be, a cuddle, or kisses from mum or dad, or them just patting our head and telling us it's going to be okay, right? So we need to self-soothe. Now, when people, again, and I would start asking questions to high performers, what do you use to self-soothe? What sort of come up? And we've talked about this before. Drugs, alcohol, porn is another one. All these activities that are not really that good for us. So if we actually think about what's going to get us the best results, replacing some of those habits, which easier said than done, and I'm guilty of that too. After a hard day, I'm like, let's go out for a wine. Like, that seems like the best solution. What does having 1 wine, 3 wines do for my vibration? It lowers it dramatically. So then I'm not in touch with my intuition. And when we're talking about getting out of hustle and grind, I need to be really in touch with my intuition so that I can take inspired action, not just busyness for the sake of being busy. Again, that's hustle and grind mentality, right? Just doing the motions just cause. When we nourish our energy, we're in touch with our intuition, we can get those downloads from our higher self that says, this is the thing you need to do to make that deal today, not those things over there that just keep you busy. So it's about replacing those bad self-soothing habits that we've picked up at some point in our childhood or our teenage years or young adolescence, and it's replacing that with a better habit. So for me, replacing using the wine or the screen time, with yoga, where I can connect to my higher self, have the spiritual connection, and also, the stretch and the benefits for my body. Simply, like you said, with walking on the beach, getting to the beach and putting my feet on the sand. If you're not lucky enough to live near the beach like us, then just, getting out in nature, putting your feet on the grass, even getting amongst the trees, whatever you can do. So you need to find self-soothing exercises that are good for you, that are not keeping you enslaved in the system.
Nice. I like the way you use the word enslaved, because enslavement, entrapment, bondage, we are there mentally as entrepreneurs. Holly, I like to play a word game with you. So I'm going to play the part of the grind, and you're going to play the part of the unwind. So I'm going to give you the characteristics of what happens when we're on the grind, and the fallout of that. Some of it is not necessarily all bad, because we do need to grind if we want to make money. Grind is not necessarily all negative. We're dealing with the parameters, but I believe that the balance of the conversation that we're having this evening, and for me to typically in a male dominated industry of business, males are always the mindset is, I'm the breadwinner, I got to go kill the dinner and bring it home. We're still very much designed like that, but the woman is very, very sensitive, and she's very in touch with her intuition, and she's very compassionate, and she's very warm, and she's caring, and she's nurturing. So it's only right, since I'm a male and you're a female, is that you deal with the unwind, and I'm going to deal with the grind. So I'm going to verbalize to you how I feel when I get in kill mode, and then you tell me what the other side of it looks like, so that when I want to unwind, I have the outlet. Because it's for me, and you've helped me out tremendously in my life and my career. but it's going to be for somebody else that's watching this, because maybe the person's watching it is one of those male or female entrepreneurs who do not know how to unwind. So here we go.
Okay. Can I just give a disclaimer first? This
Yes.
is completely unscripted and we have not practiced this. And second of all, I love this and I am feeling really in touch with my intuition right now. So I'm not going to think, I'm just going to just speak from my gut. So I don't know what's going to come out.
Yeah,
So
and I'm not going to think about what I'm not going to think. I'm going to tell you what I feel.
Just going to do.
So when I wake up in the morning, I realize I got some shit to do. This is grind mode, people. I got shit to do. I got people relying on me. I have to provide service at a very, very high level. I know I have to get money so I could pay me and my team. I know me and my business partners and my family, we've got to eat. I have a level of responsibility. Okay, I don't know what's going to happen today, but here we go. So I wake up every day and I get in the grind mode. I try to take a little time for myself every day. But then it feels like the moment I get on the clock, I get lost and I literally get engulfed in everything else. And I literally lose myself in the grind. And I don't find myself again until after my schedule slows down, until I make it back to my massage chair. That is my grind. And if anybody else is in there with me, you understand what it's all about. What does the opposite side of that look like while I'm grinding and trying to get this money?
Well, first thing that's coming to mind is back to basics here. So the first thing I would say is before you go for the coffee, have a glass of water. Because if you're already adding coffee to that mentality, you're adding anxiety to the situation. So before you think about that, back to basics to unwind, glass of water before you pick up the coffee. That might make the difference between you going into complete anxious grind mode and just being like, oh, okay, I can handle this because now I'm a little bit more hydrated than what I was before.
I cut back to 2 cups a week with no sugar.
Good.
I used to drink it every day. I've never been a heavy mandatory coffee drinker, but then some months I'm like, I had a cup of coffee every day this week. Why is that? Because I just wanted to drink it with my fruit. I didn't have to have it with my fruit. And then some days I'm like, I haven't had coffee in a week. Oh, that's good. And you're right. I don't feel as jacked up because let's face it, Holly, I'm jacked up enough.
I was about to say, you don't need coffee.
But that's great advice. And you're right. You feel more energized when you have something clean running through your system and you're more mentally alert without it being like coffee is one of those, it's like a 5-hour energy drink. Yep. It's not natural to get that boost. Yeah.
No, it's a drug. It's the most addictive drug that's out there, caffeine. So we know what it does, right? And
coffee is the second most consumed beverage on planet Earth besides water every day.
Exactly. So we're gonna have them side by side. So let's go for the water first. That's the first thing.
Okay.
The second thing, I would say, before you get into that, I would just ask you, do you have 3 minutes spare before you get into that practice? Do you have 3 minutes? And it's going to be something fun. It's not going to be like meditate, because I can sit here and say meditate and be mindful, and that's great, and we'll talk about that later. But I know a lot of people are just like, yeah, whatever, we all say we're going to do meditation and we don't. So 3 minutes, put your headphones in, put your favorite song on, stand up. You can even do that while you're drinking the water. Move your body, shake it out, dance. Dance makes us happy. Dance starts moving our body, right? We're getting in flow state, which is that feminine energy, because it's all about flow and movement. And then wouldn't you feel more inspired to like call that person that you keep pushing down your to-do list, or follow up sales when you're like, whoa, I'm just getting Eye of the Tiger is coming to mind. Like I always play, the Rocky song if I'm going to like really smash something. So, smash a sale or something. So that's the second thing I would say. And then the third thing, let's talk about another addictive substance for people that, I'm just using smoke as an example, right? Why do people smoke? It's breathing. You're breathing in and out. The breath controls everything, right?
Wow.
And I've actually just recently, finally, hallelujah, everyone talks about breath work and it's so transformative and this and that. And I had a lot of resistance to getting into breath work.
Mm.
Breath work has given me in the last couple of months the most amount of breakthroughs in years, from 2 sessions, mind you, 2 1-hour sessions. But I'm not talking about doing that before you get into your grind, but just conscious, one breath in and out, being really conscious of our breathing. Again, that's self-regulating. That's that soothing that comes back to what we're missing from childhood, right? We need to soothe, we need to regulate our system, and breathing, just focusing on your breath a little bit as you're going through those processes. Just if it's getting too much, just, okay, I can just breathe for a second and then look at the next task.
Wow. Wow. I love it. I love it. Okay. So now, okay. So the next thought that comes to mind is when things don't go right. And this is a big one that we are in denial about a lot. We don't like dealing with rejection that comes with sales. When we have when we have an off day, we don't like how it feels when we get told no. And I believe that a lot of times that we don't know how to deal with it. And I talked about this on the Monday Q&A call yesterday, where pressure changes everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And everyone responds to pressure differently. And we all have it, no matter if, let's say if you're behind in bills, or you one month your sales funnel does 100K, and then the next month it gets cut in half. But your expenses are still at 100K, and you're still trying to figure out how to scale it up. And now you're scrambling around in scarcity mode, like, oh my God, I can't believe this hasn't happened to me in months. So you start feeling the residuals of the failure, of the inadequacy, of the embarrassment, right? So Holly, that's also part of the grind. So what is the opposite end of that look like when you are feeling inadequate, when you're not feeling worthy, even when you have a high level of self-esteem and you have supreme confidence and you do feel great about yourself, that the demon at night comes to visit you and it snatches away all of your confidence. And now you're just an average person again, looking at an uphill battle. What does the other side of the ground look like when it comes to feeling inadequate and our self-esteem has been attacked?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that you've got to remind yourself it is a redirection, not a rejection. And it's really hard when people are saying no to your face, or, this is not for me. And it's really hard. And I've struggled with this too. But you've got to look back and think, where was there times in my life where someone said no to me? And maybe that was the biggest blessing in disguise. Because when you're desperate, when you're in scarcity mode, it's like, now you've been married a long time. I am not married, so I can give a dating example. It's like when you go on a bunch of first dates and you can smell desperation from across the dinner table. Really appealing. Do you want to even, I'm just like, where's the bill? Like, why would I want to sit there any longer? I definitely don't want a second date. I can smell the desperation. The same things come across in business. If you are desperate for it, people are going to smell that and they're not going to be interested. So it's sitting in your power. And in those moments where you're like, oh my God, if I don't get to this level, then, it's game over this month. I don't know what I'm going to do. That's back to that original quote. That's when you need to take that break. That's when you need to get away and you need to look objectively at, right, what am I doing, or what have I done in the past that works? Double down on that. Let go of the rest and truly let go. Doesn't mean let go forever, but let go of that exercise for that month. That month is done anyway. That has not worked for you. So try something different. Right? So it's getting into that flow state. It's shifting up your environment. And when I say that too, look around at your physical environment, because if you are working in clutter and you're expecting, people to respond to that, or you're expecting to have some organization in your day, look at your physical environment too. As above, so below, right? So you've got to look at those things. And back to my first point, it's a redirection. And
Right.
that's when you need to trust the universe. If you've been really clear on what you want and you've been taking the inspired action, as I said earlier, not actions just for the sake of being busy, inspired action. And the way you'll know to do that is if you're more in touch with your intuition. So getting away from screen time, getting out in nature, doing your self-soothing exercises. Then if you're doing that, then you will get the intuitive hit on what to do next.
Wow, I love it. I love it. Okay, this is another part of the grind, which we don't really like to talk about because it involves other people. It involves the opinions about what are other people going to think about me, especially when it's going bad. You know, probably a true definition, and I could attest to this because I don't talk to you all the time when things are I got a dozen roses in my hand, right? And some flowers and some candy. It's just I don't talk to you all the time when it's all going good. I
No,
talk to you a lot because
that's what we need.
Oh yeah, this is
Talk.
yes, this is because it's real what I'm going through right now. These are real emotions, these are real feelings. I am learning how to manage things on a whole nother level. And I'm not the only coach or consultant and speaker in this marketplace or internet marketer who is in this space. A lot of us feel anxiety. But let me get back to the question because I really want you to dive in on this because, and I'm so glad we're having this conversation because people need to understand that we have to stop letting other people's opinion define our level of self-esteem.
Yes.
But we do it all the time. We care about what our parents think about us. We care about what, oh my God, they're going to condemn me if I fail, right? Well, what I learned is that the more failures that you have, the more successful you're going to be. But other people start attacking us because we're on the grind. So show them what the other side of that looks like. How do you even manage that shit or handle it when the whole freaking world is attacking you and you feel like you're by yourself?
Yeah. Well, I feel like this is something I learned from you, actually, that, it's lonely and you are going to lose friends along the way and people's judgments are just not welcome. And I've recently cut off a lot of people and I keep thinning the herd because honestly, I don't have time for it. I actually had a dream about Elon Musk the other night. It wasn't that type of a dream. It wasn't sexual. You know what? I started Googling about it because I'm like, why did he appear in my dream? And all I could find on Google was that you probably admire something about that celebrity. And I was like, yeah, I do, because I'm sure he had to cut off a lot of people when he had his vision of where he was going. And everything that he's doing on Twitter right now is hilarious. I just can't stop watching it. He's attacking all the media corporations.
Oh yeah.
I love it too. So that's why I'm probably dreaming about him because
I love it. He's just saying whatever he wants to say.
Yes, exactly. But think about how many times people like that. And I even go back to the story of Jeff Bezos all the time too, when he had the idea for Alexa and everyone said, you're crazy. That's so stupid. Like there's already Siri on Apple. Like what, like why would you do that? And again, ridiculed, laughed at by your colleagues, your coworkers, your team, your family, your friends. No one gets your vision the way you do. So you've just got to shut that off. And in those times, to be honest with you, I do start Googling stories about Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. And I try and find out information on like, well, what's their story? Like, what did they do when they were coming up against this? Because you've got to be tough. And that doesn't mean you can't feel it. You can feel it and it's going to feel shit. And we were both going to say this, but I'll introduce it, is that started documenting when I'm feeling really low. I've actually started taking photos of myself crying because I'm thinking like an entrepreneur, like an elite, like an Elon would.
Right.
And thinking about, everyone shows the highlight reel, but don't people want to see the struggles that I went through to get there and the days that I had to push myself, and no one
Yep.
wants to take a photo of themselves when they're like down in the dumps and
Yep.
looking like shit and my makeup is all over my face.
Yep.
But it's going to add to the story later, because I need people to see that, to understand that it's not just this highlight reel. There's lots of dark days, but you've got to, think like an elite business person. And, it's it's hard, but
It is hard. It's difficult. I'm gonna use. It's only a couple of quotes that I know.
mm,
One of them is by a famous attorney. His name is Butch.
mhm,
And Butch it was a top sports agent for years with a lot of NFL players. I used to be an agent many years ago. We ran a sports management company, and Butch told me, he said, a lot of people are not going to like you. He
mhm,
said, I would rather be tried by 12 instead of carried by 6. So he
mhm,
carried a 12 gauge in his trunk. And
mhm,
he also said, it's lonely at the top, but
mhm.
the view is absolutely beautiful.
Yep.
He said, you have to be willing to stand by yourself,
Mm.
be lonely. He
Yep.
said, but you're going to earn that view when you get to the top, but you're not going to be able to take a lot of people with you.
Mhm.
So, these kind of conversations, I believe, in the world of entrepreneurism, Holly, the next thing I want to transition into, and I want to get your thoughts on this, is that there is a group, like if you're addicted to drugs or alcohol, there is a group and a 12-step program that you can take.
Yep.
There's a Mothers Against Drunk Driving. There's an association for everything. There's a support group for breast cancer survivors. There's a support group for almost everything. Have you ever heard of a support group for entrepreneurs who are really struggling their ass off to learn how to get to another level, besides the mastermind that they can attend once a week? Or if you're fortunate enough where you have a great relationship like you and I, where I can pick up the phone and call you or text you, and I can say, hey, Holly, I'm feeling a lot of anxiety. I'm out of the vortex. Do you have 5 minutes? And somebody to actually give a damn about you. So I was thinking to myself, why isn't it anything out? I haven't heard of anything out there like that, like an association for entrepreneurial support
Mhm.
to support you emotionally. And why am I asking you that, Holly? Because I've done things uncharacteristic throughout the pandemic, because I'd be lying to you if I told you that other people's shit and their anxiety hasn't made me more anxious, just as a result of people not being able to manage shit properly because of what we all been going through throughout the pandemic. So the real question is, where do you go to get support in your darkest hour as an entrepreneur when you're on the ground?
That's really interesting. And I've got so many light bulbs going off right now, because again, it's all about the people really wanting to sell you a product that's going to take you to the next level, or, make you your next $1 million. But I don't know of any actual support associations or groups that just focus on that, because having a traditional therapist is not going to work for you either, in my experience. And
Mm-hmm.
here's why. Because again, just like the Alexa story and just like Elon Musk with all his crazy ideas, you're talking to someone who doesn't get it. So literally my therapist would come back at me and be like, well, maybe you should just think about getting a job again.
Okay.
And I was like, we need to end right here, because she's not getting my vision, but she had my best interests at heart. She wants to take that financial stress off me, right? When I'm like, okay, I'm trying to do this, I'm trying to do that, but also we all have bills to pay, right? That's what it's about at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So there's no one's going to get it. You can talk to a therapist, you can, talk to your mum or your sister or your friend or whoever, but they're also not going to get it unless they have walked the walk.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's pretty interesting of the opinions of so many people about their journey. And I remember one of my prospects that I was talking to last week, and I reached back out to him as he requested on the calendar. I saw it it popped up that he wanted me to reach back out to him on a specific date. I reached back out to him, and he didn't even call me back. He texted me and said, all entrepreneurial endeavors are dead. I went back and took a 9-to-5 job.
See, that's like my worst nightmare.
So he basically told me, I'm not focusing on any more opening up any businesses. I gave up on my dream.
Wow.
And it was so heartbreaking, but it was a reminder. I literally have, without exaggeration, we have a list of thousands of people on a list in a category who their significant other talked them out of being an entrepreneur or not starting a speaker business, or the reason why they shouldn't start a consultancy or any kind of business. And then I have over $5.3 million in my CRM in the no-show category. People did not show up on a call so they could get free information about how to take their business to a whole nother level. I don't even have to get to that category, but that's how many people, that's the dollar amount of, I don't know how many leads are in there, but it's thousands of leads in there. The number is $5.3 million worth of business just sitting in there.
Yep.
People who did not take action. So here's my next question.
Yeah.
Grind requires action. But what kind of activity do we actually need to have what I call a healthy grind? Because there's a difference. There's grinding yourself into the ground.
Yeah.
Literally killing yourself. And then there's that healthy grind. So how do you keep a healthy grind? Healthy activity is what I'm saying. Because God, somebody needs to hear that.
Well, something really interesting I learned from one of my mentors who's a digital entrepreneur. And like many of us, start off in the beginning, taking calls. You mentioned this to me the other day because you stopped taking Zoom calls because then you had to sit in a dark room versus doing phone calls, which allows you to be on the beach or wherever you are walking, like getting those steps in.
Yeah.
So I heard this in a recent podcast episode from her because she started her business like that too. Because again, we're all told to follow these steps. You know, you've got to have these Zoom calls, you've got to have these discovery calls if that's what you want to do, and then you've got to filter them into your offering.
Right.
She was like, I don't want to do that anymore. There has to be another way. But here's the thing. You've got to believe that whatever that other way is going to work. And we don't because of fear. Because society tells us, or our coach told us, or whoever told us, you need to be booked solidly on these calls to make this amount of money. And if you're not, it's not going to come in the door. So what she did is she set an intention. Again, it goes back to what you actually want. You want those books to turn into those booked calls to turn into sales. You want the sale, right? So what did she want? She set the intention of people are going to find me. People are going to pay for my program in full. People that have never even met me are just going to pay for the program. Now that sounds really scary because then she had to let go of control and not book in any more of those calls. She had to try that out. She had to let the magic take over and the mindset and give it a go. And then guess what happened? The next day she checks the email and she's like, oh my God, someone paid for my program in full. And I don't know where they've. And, you know, as long as you've got the systems working, which I know you always talk about systems and having all of that in place, as long as they can find you, see what your offering is and pay for it, give it a chance, right? What have you got to lose?
You're right. And you can always modify it like I did. Like one thing I told you that I did, and you were like, oh, great. Because I believe you either were getting ready to ask me the question or it seemed like we were moving in that direction. I told you, I said, look, I started, instead of taking calls from this amount of time to this amount of time, now I do it from this amount of time to this amount of time. You were like, oh, great. Okay. And then also it's being able to not have them lock me down in the first call because I want to be mobile. Not only when I'm on my feet, I'm more creative. I can have a better conversation. My arms are flowing. I want to get my 10,000 steps in, every day. And, but I only do Zoom calls now on the onboarding call because I feel like it's an important part that we see each other before we start the working relationship. And it's a great way to build trust and I also walk them through a demo of the program as well. Those two minor shifts, because it wasn't anything major I did, minor, which
Yeah.
was taking less calls in a short amount of time. Watch this, canceling calls that I didn't feel were not going to be the best fit for this program.
Good. Yep.
Which is so instead of dealing with 400 people a week, I only want to deal with 100 people a week. Out of that 100 people, I'm looking to deal with the 25 or 30 that I have the chance to convert into a sale.
Yep.
You see, that's going to allow me to hit the number that I need to hit in order for my revenue goal. Now, it's easier when you can shift into something different. When we launched a couple other pieces of software that we have now, those are starting to track and make cash flow. It's getting better, right? And then now you feel like, oh, if I have a bad day, then the software did $5 grand that day, or the software did 2K that day.
Yes, exactly.
It picks up the slack and it makes a difference. Like what you were telling me that, I had to put my speaker business on pause because I got to get my program out there into the marketplace. And we both have our mentor, Sam Ovens, who taught you how to do that, which is pretty amazing. So, we don't want to be stuck with just one income. And Holly, before we get out of here, I want to transition into a thought process. because you talk about mental patterning a lot. I want to talk about the differences between being a male and a female entrepreneur without trying to make it about being a feminist or being a chauvinist, because we hear enough about that. But we do have the differences in the way we are wired as female and male entrepreneurs. And there are certain things we have to take into consideration. So could you cover both aspects, and could you give some tips out there about how to manage yourself and your emotions as an entrepreneur when you're going through it? Perhaps maybe the males need to soften up their position a little bit more and be more compassionate, and maybe the women need to be more strong and authoritative without losing their femininity. How would you comment on both of those?
Yeah, it's really interesting that you say that, because first of all, when I actually had my most success, well, I perceived it as most success at that time, I was stuck in my masculine energy. And the masculine energy, it is all about drive, action, structure, and organization. When you do that, you become very regimented. So it can be it's back to that grind, the healthy grind, right? It's like a well-oiled machine and it just goes. And then I started to realize, oh, where's my feminine energy gone? I've never experimented with that side in business, which is what I'm doing now. And granted, it is taking a little bit longer because it's kind of foreign to me.
So you're going through a learning stage right now too.
Yes, because I had been stuck in my masculine energy for so long. And obviously what we are striving for is that we both have a masculine and a feminine side. So we want balance, we want alignment and symmetry. But more in the feminine side, that's all about flow, surrender, creativity. And then I was like, oh God, well, I'm not that, because I was always in structured organizational sales roles, that masculine side. I have not had to be creative. I always had a marketing team to do that. I don't need to create stuff. I don't need to worry about like being in flow, because that was somebody else's job. So there's vast differences, and you need to find the balance. And basically how you do that is what this whole topic was about, is unwinding from the grind. Because if we're constantly grinding, then we're stuck in the masculine. And then if we're constantly unwinding, then we're probably not making as much money as we could, because we're in the feminine. So balance, it's all about balance, right? Bring the two together.
Great point. Great point. I believe too, a lot of times, I want to touch on something you said, because a lot of times that women feel like they're losing their femininity by being in the masculine energy, and males feel if you're a man's man, right, and you're old school like I am,
threatening, yeah.
oh, you're like, oh no, I don't want to feel soft. We gotta hug, we gotta be touchy feely. No, I gotta stay in the kill zone. And if I'm in the kill zone, oh, I gotta be a Spartan warrior. There's no time for emotion. But there's a price to pay when you want to disregard, or you don't want to recognize that you can embrace your feminine energy, and it does not compromise being a man. You being a man's man. I'm a sensitive man. I'm not ashamed to say that. I'm in tune with the things that are compassionate, the things that just make you more warm. Because if not, you're just an asshole all the time. Do you know 80% of the prospects that I talk to every day, male and female, they're assholes. They're over the top with their ego, they're overly emotional, they all want to push their credentials up front. They want to overtalk you. They're so proud of what they've been able to accomplish because they're on the grind so much that they just won't back off all of that and just lead with, be a servant leader, put the people first, but everyone's making it about the money first. And before we get out of here, I do want to talk about the financial ramifications of the byproduct of your grind, which is money to pay our bills. But Holly, in your opinion, should that be the primary focus, which is chasing the money? I want your opinion on that, because a lot of people are getting business just to make money. I thought that when I was in business many, many years ago. Oh, I'm going to make all of this money. But I learned that it's about serving. And the effort is the byproduct. But what's your take on just being about the money?
Well, it's back to the first date example, right? People can smell that desperation. So if you desperately just want money, 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 or whatever it is, success, accolades, attention, likes on Instagram, whatever it is you want, all you're doing is pushing it away. So when you actually realize it's not about that, actually what drives me, and I've asked you this question before, what drives you to get out of bed in the morning? Like, what is your purpose? That is what is going to take you to that level of success. And here's the thing too, people that are just about the money, 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 and there's nothing else to back that up, you can attract, I could attract a lot of likes or a lot of attention on Instagram if that's what I want. I could attract a lot of money, but can I hold on to it? Is that sustainable? We can draw it in, but just as quickly it can disappear. And then what? We've shaped our whole identity about being an influencer on social media, or, you know, just the money in the bank. And our whole identity is attached to that. So when we lose that, what have we got?
Right.
It's got to be about more.
We feel even lower. We feel even more lonely. We feel isolated. We feel, see, that's the blowback of just making it about the grind. That coveted balance that you talked about, you know, a little while ago is the space and energy that I seek every single day. And this is the reason why, you know, I put my office hours in. I made the calls that I needed to make around 3 or 4 p.m. I got out of the office, took the car to the car wash. You know, sometimes it's the little things. A $9 car wash made all the difference in the world.
Yes.
Watch this. I could pay to have somebody come get my trash, but I still like we have to take our trash to a trash house. Put the trash in, I put the trash in the car, took the trash to the trash house. I just wanted to do something that made me feel normal. And sometimes running errands.
Yes.
On my own instead of having the assistant do it.
Yes.
I got some stuff on my list. Hey, listen, I went and bought a $15 sprinkler because I just reseeded my lawn, which is making me feel like I'm one with the earth. So I bought two of them. One of them reaches 86 feet. The other one only reaches like 68 feet. I said, the other one is 68 feet. It's not getting the job done. So I went and bought another one to reach 86 feet. And I got both of them in the backyard working right now as we're talking. It's just little things like that. I didn't spend a lot of money. I didn't spend a lot of time out. But one thing I did, car wash, I ran a couple errands. I bought me a new sprinkler. I took a long walk and I had dinner on the water. And then I came and I talked to you. And then I'm headed literally right to my massage chair after this. Because the grind is over.
That's how to unwind.
That's unwinding. Holly, you got any thoughts that you want to share?
You can read my mind, yes, because I'm actually going to finish this with a bang.
Yes.
I want to set you a task, and we're going to discuss it next episode.
Okay.
You mentioned that $5 million that's sitting in your CRM, these leads that are just there and they're doing nothing. And you're probably looking at that and going, why? What's the rejection here? Like, what am I missing here? So I'd like to set you the task of thinking about, with those leads, what could you do differently? How could you tap into more of that feminine energy, flow, creativity, surrender? What could you do differently to maybe attract in that $5 million? Not grind,
Mhm.
attract it in. What do you think you could do? So I'd like you to maybe experiment with that type of energy during the week. And then we'll talk about the findings on our next episode. What do you think?
Okay, well, what I'm thinking right now is I'm going to get Jasper a language AI model to help me come up with some verbiage that could potentially connect with people with and I know what you're saying. Sometimes in sales, you have to soften up your position a little bit.
Hmm.
Sometimes you have to lower the barrier to entry psychologically if they're thinking, oh, well, I got that much money sitting in there. Maybe if I cut the fee in half. Maybe some people aren't scheduling the call because they're afraid of
What
that they
the
don't have the
what's
money.
involved and what the
What's
cost.
involved? Exactly. Maybe they cancel the call because they have a fear of the unknown. Maybe if I just address that in the opening sentence of the email that I send out to them. Hey, maybe you're unsure of things right now. Maybe you're afraid of the unknown. Well, I'd like to be able to walk you through a free demo so we can just answer every question that you may have. Maybe
Yes.
that's the answer right there.
See,
And
I think we already just came up with it.
I'm gonna try it, Holly. I'm gonna
Yeah,
try
give
it.
it a
Why
go,
not?
and let's just give it a go and just really just feel into it. Like when you're like, feel what you, and I'm getting a shiver so that we're onto something here. Feel what you would want to receive when you were in that state of fear,
Hmm.
looking to make a change, but you're like, oh, that's going to involve work. It's going to be
Yep.
hard. Like,
Yep.
feel into that version of you and what you would want to be told in that moment, and then give that in words or whatever you're going to do.
Right.
Maybe even include an image. Maybe, if you've been documenting some of these times where you've been down and out, maybe even including something like that. I'm just giving you some ideas, but you're going to come up with it. And then we'll discuss what you did, maybe the results. And I'm sure our listeners will be very interested.
Sure. I would love it. I would love it. Holly, I really appreciate the fact that you are moving through this space with me right now in my life. We are both faced with our own individual adversities, but the fact that we have each other in our network and we can rely
Yes.
on each other, and I honestly believe, like I've heard a lot of other social media. Gary V talks about that a lot. Just document your journey. It's easy to hear someone else say it, but it's really difficult to type that post or create that video when you're in pain. And you're
Yes.
making it easier for me to share my pain and going through a most difficult time in my life, where a lot of things I really haven't dealt with, but I'm embracing the 5 stages of grief. One of them is accepting the situation and getting out of denial that it's actually happening to you. I believe that a lot of times as coaches, speakers, or consultants, or as entrepreneurs or business owners, that people look at us from the outside and they think we got it all figured out.
Yep.
But really, the steps we're taking them very gingerly, and we're walking on very, very fragile ground. And a lot of us do not have anybody to reach out to. So I believe that if we were able to touch maybe one or two people in this interview right here to help them understand that it's okay to unwind. You can't be on the grind 24 hours a day. There are times when you need to grind, but there are times where you need to unwind. And I just thank you so much for helping us understand both sides and giving your great experience and your opinion about everything. It truly helped me. And I want to give you a personal thank you for the last call that we had, because it literally got me through the day.
Oh, thank you. This has been wonderful. And I'm sure people have got lots of feedback for us. And we can't wait to, get your comments. And if you want us to talk about anything in particular during this show, then give us a shout. We'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely, Holly. Absolutely. See you on the next episode.
Yeah, sounds good. Bye.
Stay focused.